Sunday night chat. I had this whole thing. I've been thinking about it for the last couple days. I kind of wanted to talk about. I don't like this thing, me thing. We've been through this already. I think this camera looks a little crooked. Is it? I don't know. Am I making it better or worse? um, I don't like sitting here talking about me. We've been through this, right? But I had this thing happen, this epiphany. I was talking to somebody the other day, and it came up in the subject as a subject, and it seems poignant to me. But it could seem corny. I'm going to get flack. We'll talk about comments here in a moment. But it just sounds corny to say it out loud. I can hear it in my head, and before I say it, it's like, it just sounds corny. But it's the truth for me personally. Social media kind of saved my life in a large way. Um, but before we get into that, I kind of wanted to talk about a couple things here with the channel, and then like this past week, and it all got thrown out the window because I just checked the phone before I set it up here, and I got this text message. Such a crazy week. I kind of took a break from work. Excuse me, while I take my Frankenstein boots off here. Just got home. LA. Somebody parks the car wrong, the people will just lay on their horn until somebody around comes outside to see if it's their car that they're complaining about. Anyhow, all of October, like I didn't really make any money. I mentioned that before, but I wasn't really trying. It's kind of usually on me, really. And then I had to get stuff done. The people whose garage I use as a workshop, their house, I did that whole house. I mean, I got that house dialed back in the late 90s when they first bought it. And then I built most of the furniture in that house over the years. And, I was still in the film industry kind of when I met them. And then I kind of got out of the film industry around 2001-ish. And then I was just making furniture and doing everything else I do. And from time to time, some of that stuff needs upkeep. I'll tell you what, you want to know how to tell if you're pretty good at your work? Be around your work 20 years later, 30 years later, 40 years later. There's times when I go back home to the Jersey Shore, there's still stuff at the beach I built when I was in my 20s that's still there. So I'm pretty good at what I do. At any rate, I'm trying to catch up with them, and I had to do their sills and a bunch of other stuff. And then this past week, I had one day in particular that was just an insane day with phone calls. And this one guy, I think this was all in one day, actually. It was one guy called, he saw the kitchen crate I made for the van. He lives close. He wanted me to build him some trays for he has a 4Runner. It sounded really interesting, so I wanted to see it. I was like, dude, it's not a big deal. Come on by. I'm working. I'll take a look. And it was neat to see it. And he wanted me to make these trays, and his number that he threw at me was not enough. Now, it's enough for most people for what the job was. But typically for me, for my time, it wasn't. So I wasn't really interested in it. But he was such a nice guy, and he just wouldn't take no for an answer. I'm like, okay. All right, we agreed on a number, and I'm trying to do it. I got the material. I milled. Matter of fact, I took the whole edge of my finger off the other day working on one of those parts for him. So that was that. Then I get a call from my friend Kurgi's son, who's a really interesting character. You guys are going to see him on the channel. I'm going to do a sit-down bullshit session with him. And young guy, 27, getting his life in order, but it's really interesting. He's a man on the street. One of the things he does for this no jumper thing, I haven't ever looked at it. I hear it's got millions of subscribers. So, that'll be fun. And I get a call from some dude. I was recommended to him by this guy. His name's Vinny. I think he's Korean, not that it matters, but he lives close to me, and he's a real estate developer in the area. And several years ago, I did some custom work for him on his home. Real simple stuff, though. I had to make, I don't even remember everything I did, but I had to reset some doors. I made some custom thresholds for him. He had little kids at the time, new family man, nice guy. And so from time to time, I'll get a call or an email from somebody that he has referred. But I've never done a job, though. I've never taken one of the jobs. And this guy called me up and seems real desperate. He's like, hey man, we got these condos and we got this woman in one of our condos and she needs, it's a door issue. He doesn't know how to explain it to me. He doesn't send me any pictures. He's trying to describe it to me. I can't get into his head. I have no idea what he's freaking talking about. But he's desperate. And I'm like, well, look, man, I'm not a handyman. I mean, I can do handyman work, but I don't do it at handyman level. You know what I'm saying? I'll do a handy guy job, but I'm going to do it better than one of those guys. Which is going to take a little longer, which will cost more, but I'm also charging more than those guys. I have to say that right from the jump because, that's just how it is, I'm not negotiating with anybody. This is how much it's going to be, period. All right. If you don't like it, that's fine. Find somebody else to do it. I got other things I could be doing, even if they're not pulling in money. I'm just weird like that. I don't know what it is. I got principles or something. I'm a freaking mess. So, but I know it. So he's like, oh no, it's okay. Don't worry. Just give me a number. We just got to get this done. Okay. Well, where is it? Long Beach. Dude, I'm not driving to Long Beach. Oh, come on, man. I'm like, do you understand what that means for me? I'm in LA. I'm up here, man. Right? That's going to take me these days with the traffic and everything. It could easily be an hour, easily, each way or more. It's a friggin' haul, man. And I told him, it's like, all my work is within 3 miles of my front door for the most part. I don't need that aggravation. I said I would have to charge you for the job. Then I'd have to charge you for the time, driving there and back, plus the fuel. That's okay. We just got to get this done. Okay. So I tell him, look, the easiest thing for me, I need to see pictures or whatever. He gets me the number of the woman who lives in the house. I texted with her a few days ago. She just sent me a text of this with a little video. And it's like, the only thing she sent, so I don't know if it's anything else, is pocket doors. Pocket doors that she was calling it a barn door, which it's not. It is. It functions like a barn door. A barn door typically, of course, a barn door could open like any other regular door, but these days we're conditioned to accept and believe that barn doors run on rollers and slide. All right, a lot of old school barn doors do that. It's usually super heavy duty, exposed hardware riding on a rail on the outside of a structure. If there's a problem with a barn door that's like that sort of system, I can rig that. I could fix that. I could readjust things, no problem. But if it's a pocket door, that could be a real hassle because they install the pocket door hardware before everything's drywalled and everything. So if you have a problem with the mechanism with a pocket door is a sort of door where you have the doors and they open. In this case, it's 2 doors that close together on themselves. Well, if there's something wrong in there, you can't just work that. You pretty much almost always have to open up the drywall and get to that and replace hardware and whatnot, especially on the tops of the doors. They're not typically designed to be able to lift out and get out of there. So that's what she sent me. And she said in the video, I was told by the last guy that came here, so this has been an ongoing problem, which I knew already based on what this guy had said to me. They've probably paid a couple guys already to come out there and fix this, and they haven't gotten it right. And so this guy's like, I really need a good carpenter. I'll call Vinny. Vinny goes, oh, I know a guy, Mike Z. Give him a call. Okay. You're freaking Long Beach, man. At any rate, I'm going to have to charge him a few $100 minimum just to go and look at it to see if I can even fix it. You know what I mean? Anyhow, that just threw me off for what I wanted to talk about. And then the other call I had, this guy is actually, I've never talked to him before. He such a nice guy. We spent over an hour on the phone. It could have been 2 hours. I lost my whole day basically. He called me around lunchtime, and I think we talked till after 2 or something. I promised him I wouldn't say too much. He's pretty secretive. He's got some property, and he would. I could say this much. I think this is much I could say about anything. I guess. Um, he would like me to build a structure on a piece of property that he has where he and his wife could go and like vacation when they want to get out of town. They're not here; they're on the East Coast, and so I don't know how he thought I could do it. I don't remember if we discussed that. I did. He sent me an email. We did a couple emails back and forth, and then he called me. Right. I think that's how it all went down. I'm having too many conversations with too many people right now, which is part of what I want to get to as well. With the social media saving my life. I hope I even get to it. So he makes films, and he's like a director, and he does some acting, and I don't know too much more than that other than what he told me. And one of the neat things when you're getting to know somebody, and one of the ways you can tell if you're kind of on the same page and you like the person or not, is to discuss common interests. And I like film. I don't like a lot of the new stuff. I'm not watching it, but old stuff I'm into. And I can break film down to a certain degree. I'm not like a Quentin Tarantino type of person who's going to get into the ultimate minutia of it, but I understand character building, arcs and characters, motivations. I studied acting. I did all that stuff, and it's fun, and I liked it. And I worked on movies, and I worked on a lot of low budget movies out here, and I worked on big budget movies. Maybe the biggest big budget movie I worked on. This is one I'm proud of. Unfortunately, my name's not in the credits because I was part of the reshoot team, but I've got pictures of me on that set doing it all. It's actually the film I got injured on. Was Restoration. Robert Downey Jr., Meg Ryan, Sam Neill back in the 90s. And I did the sets on that. It was a team of us. It was a group of guys that I worked with before on some other bigger picture movies. The funny thing is, all the movies I've done, I can't remember any of them. I don't remember. Like I remember working on them, but it was just a job. This job, next job, this job, next job, just doing a job. And so I don't recall them all. And then sometimes there's movies that work under a working title when you're doing it. When it comes out, when it's released, it's another thing. And you know, but these guys were good that I worked with. So we always had enough guys. We always had enough time to do everything. And this film, if you don't know it, yeah, it's a good movie. Restoration. It's a period piece. It's like the Dark Ages kind of. Robert Downey Jr. is a doctor, playboy. Actually, it's pretty interesting because it's kind of like COVID when you think about it, because it's during the plague. Excuse me. And you should see it. It's a good movie. And my job was to watch the movie because there were certain scenes where I had to recreate the sets for the close-up stuff. Like there's a scene where he breaks through these breakaway boards to get to the people that they had quarantined, and I made all the breakaway boards. Right? There's a scene with Meg Ryan. She's in a horse stall, and I had to recreate the horse stall, and I built that. I spent a week building coffins. I have a baby coffin in my closet right here, actually, from that movie. And the coffins and caskets, both styles. You guys, I was corrected by that by a girlfriend of mine that owned funeral homes back in the day. Anyhow, you can actually see the work I did in the movie, so I was proud of it. And then I believe it won the Academy Award for sets, so that's a cool feather in my cap, I suppose. At any rate, I did that, and I did some acting and all that stuff. No big deal. It's not a big deal, but I still have an affinity for it, film and acting and all that. And I live here, but I walked away from it because of the people that I had to deal with on a regular basis. Also, when you're behind the camera and you're building stuff to make it happen, I did a whole video on this, why I walked away from the film industry. Maybe I'll remember to put the the link in the description below, and you can watch that. I don't think I'll rehash all that right now. So that's my backstory. But I've got a lot of experience working in film and theater. Designed, built a lot of theater sets and all that. And so I'm talking to this guy, and I'm able to bring up these films, and he's on the same page and everything. And the guy's super cool, man. Fuck, really cool guy. And he sends me the trailers to the movies he's done. And I haven't talked to him since because I don't know how to. Because look, I'm always speaking my mind. I never know, I'm not sugarcoating anything. It's B movie stuff. He knows that. First of all, I just want to say I wouldn't be insulting him. Like I don't know how to approach the thing with him. It's cool. Of course, I would want to do it. The point is, we're talking about building something, and maybe him. He mentioned, maybe I heard it wrong, that he just sent me a thing. I didn't really read it. So I'm sorry. I'm all over the place. There's too much going on right now. But the point is, I might have be able to do a little acting, and I would like to do that. It's been a while, and it would be fun to do that. Whether or not anybody sees it, even because when you're doing it, for those of you that aren't in this world, it can oftentimes, it's almost always a pleasurable experience, is what I'm saying. I'll tell you a story. There was a play I did. I can't get it out quick enough. It was called The Coils of Death. It was out here in the 90s at the Attic Theater, which isn't there anymore. And I had done, as a kid in school, you do theater, right? I was like the third duck from the left. I was the second reindeer, whatever, school plays and stuff like that. And then when I went to college, I did some theater. I'm having these memories. And then that was after the Marines. It's crazy life. I've been all over the place. I've done all these weird things. It's when I came out here, I got into it. And when I was doing it, okay, I'm trying to remember everything. I moved into this apartment. There's a couple that lived up here. They're not here anymore. They live in Glendale now. And she used to be a model, and she's an actress. And actually, I told this dude about her. She became a stand-in for films. If you ever saw the movie Thelma and Louise, when they showed a shot of hands on the steering wheel driving the car, that was my friend Deb. That was her hands, And so Deb was working on this play, The Coils of Death. She was a co-producer, and she was starring in it. And they didn't have anybody to build the sets. And I was studying acting at the time in Beverly Hills. Nick Conti's Actors Lab. He's actually still doing it in Georgia now. And she asked if I could build the sets. The cast was made up of people who have been in Hollywood for years. Writers, producers, actors, all of it. And there was 3 people who were producing it together and co-wrote it. This guy, Jeff Klinkenbeard. I'll show you guys him. I got a picture of him right here. You guys might have seen this before in the background. These are 2 of my favorite people. This is Jeff and his beau, Jaw. Yeah, they're a couple gay guys. At the time, they'd been together for 20 years already. Jeff is the guy with the cap on. Such a nice guy. Really, really great dude. And so Jeff was directing it, and there was this guy, John Goodwin, who had been a makeup artist for years. And he was acting in it and also producing it. And so, and all the other actors had done, the guy who was the lead, this guy, Joel Edwards, I think his name was. Joel had been in a bunch of Playboy Wet and Wild videos. Joel set up a meeting for me with Michael Trachillas Productions back then in the 90s to be a Wet and Wild Playboy actor. That was a funny moment in time. At any rate, just having these. You guys know it's off the cuff. I'm not ever really thinking about what I'm going to say. At any rate, I was around a bunch of people who had been in the business, some of them for decades. Okay, and all of this was kind of new to me being out here. So Deb sets this up. One of the guys worked at CBS, and so the whatever you call it down here on Beverly. So he had a big room that they could rehearse in. They were already rehearsing and blocking, and they asked me to come down to watch rehearsal to see how they were already blocking. And I think we'd already been to the Attic Theater, so I had I had sketched out the stage. I knew what parameters I was working with. Never designed and built a set before. Just said yes to it. I'm the only guy who got paid on the show because I always get paid. Doing the collections for the mob back in the day, I always get paid. And so I'm watching the show. They act the whole thing out. And the funny thing is I couldn't help myself. And this is the thing I have with this guy I talked to the other day because I watched the trailer. And no matter what I look at, I'm a weird guy. I can't help myself. I just think, how can I make it better? Especially if things are glaring at me that I see. I'm like, oh, it could be better. It just should have been like that. Especially if it's like this guy in particular, it's like a dystopian type thing. I can't give anything away. I think I could say that much. Oh, it just hit me. Sorry, man. He might watch this. Everybody was too clean. And even when they showed a close-up of this guy's hand, you could tell they put some smudges on his hand to make it look dirty. Instead of faking the dirty look, go do some gardening, motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Like, go drop something in the dirt and pick it up and make it real. Just do that. Because that kind of shit just screams fake to me when I see it. I'm like, it could have been better. All it would have taken was one guy saying, hey. And every film I ever worked on, well, I'm going to get to it. Let me tell the story. I'm sorry. The weave almost took us in a whole other direction, right? Wouldn't have been good. So I'm at CBS. I'm watching a rehearsal for the Coils of Death. I happen to take some notes on the acting, and because I just couldn't help myself. And so everybody leaves. They start talking to me, and I said, "Listen, before we get into what I'm here for, I just noticed a few things. I hope you guys don't mind, but I took notes on some of the acting." And they looked at me, and Jeff said, would you excuse us for a second? And he said, Deb, John, let's go in the hallway. So they go in the hallway. They leave me in this big friggin' giant room by myself. And I'm like, so I guess I just shot myself in the foot there. They come back in, and they offer me the job of being the assistant director. And they needed it. Every show needs somebody that isn't afraid to say anything to anybody. The problem in the film business and in life in a lot of places is that people are and now especially these days with the woke bullshit and everything else, there's people walking around in eggshells everywhere. You cannot turn out your best work, your best product, if you can't be allowed to be who you are while you're doing it. If you got to pretend to be somebody else or something because you're concerned about hurting somebody else's feelings or something. You understand what I'm saying? So you need a guy that can go, like firing people. No problem. You want me to fire somebody? I'll go fire them. It's not personal. So when it's an obvious thing, you should be able to walk up to somebody, hey, check it out, man. This has to be the other way. This has to be more realistic, whatever. I knew an artist. I got some of his stuff somewhere. Oh, we'll get to this in a second, too. People asked a couple questions. This guy, very talented artist. And he did a lot of like punk rock record covers, and he did a lot of show posters. He's a highly talented guy. I've talked about him before. I've told some effed up stories in a way, but I won't mention his name now. But he had an artist, or a thing he did, it was a gunfight scene, and you see the one gunfighter in the distance, but the POV you're seeing it from is from here. You see a gun here and a guy's hand, like he's going to draw. And through here, you can see the other gunfighter. The problem was, it should be the palm of the hand that you see. He had the hand spun around the wrong way. And I told him, and he didn't understand what I was saying to him. I was like, dude, you got it wrong. He took all this time, and this piece of art was already done. I'd seen it years later. He never knew that the hand was backwards. So I just noticed things, and one of the things I know, another funny story for you. Oh, let me finish Coils of Death. So I accept being the assistant director, which did not pay anything extra. I was getting paid like $1,000 or something to do this set. It was not a lot of money. In the 90s, $1,000 was like $10,000 today. Thank you, Biden. that's gonna be an underlying narrative forever, you know. We did the show. Then they made me the assistant. Well, I was the assistant director. They made me the stage manager because they wanted me to be there every night when we did the show. It was an elaborate set. In the one corner, we had a dining, like a diner with a counter and everything. And there was a wall in the back that I used foam, and there were squares, and I arranged a diamond pattern and spray painted it silver and put baby powder between all of them, because behind that was a giant snake head. And at the end of the show, the head busts through and all that busts out, and so the dust flies and everything. And in the middle, we had different things would wheel in. We had a hole on a giant cart that we stole from a parking lot. We had a puppeteer in there, and we had the whole town with a slight pivot to it, like slight angle. The whole town in a model with a train and everything, and a puppeteer with a snake. It was wild. And we'd wheel that off. We on the other side here, we had, which would be stage left, we had this rock outcropping made with chicken wire and tinfoil spray painted like rocks. We had another snake head that was on a shopping cart that would bust out and get you. The first scene, I ended up acting in it. So the first scene, the two people die. And because Joel, who was the star of the show, where he played the lead, two different things. He did those Wet and Wild movies, so what he did was he had a different Playboy Playmate come and do the first scene every week. So I dated two of them. Monique Noel, when I say dated, we became good friends, went out, and, you know, it wasn't some big romance or anything, but two Playboy Playmates. One, her name was Monique Noel, and who was the other one? Something Fox. They had been in, I guess, the late 80s, had been Playmates. Anyhow, I got to do that for several weeks, do the first scene and get killed. That was fun. My point there is that that was the first thing I ever did out here that I can recall, and I did everything. Everything. You know, it was one of the best parts about it? Well, you don't know. I'm going to tell you. Was they didn't have the full cast yet when I came in to do the set, and when we were rehearsing over there at CBS. And so I got to sit on in. They were casting for a part. I think the part was specific. I think they wanted a black guy for the part. And it's really interesting if you're an actor and you do auditions and stuff. And I never really did a whole lot of auditions. Most of the jobs I got was because I knew somebody. I was already working on a show or something. And when you're on the other side of the table and you get to watch actors audition, and then when they leave and you get to talk amongst, you know, the producer, the director, and whoever else is there, that's an interesting headspace to be in that you are not privy to if you're just somebody looking for the work. I learned a lot from that. And I'll never forget this guy, Cyrus Farmer. Look him up. Friend of mine. There's a lot of pictures on my Facebook with us hanging out back in the day. Some funny stories with Cyrus. He's been in a lot of stuff. I remember when he came in and did his audition, and when he left, I just thought that, I said, that's the guy. That's the dude. At any rate, that was a fun thing. And from there I moved on, and I was still doing theater stuff, and that was a fun thing to do. I did a show for Donnie Most. Remember him from Happy Days? We did a couple shows with him. He was producing shows up at the Tamarind Theater at the time. And I did do some sets there, but I also was doing like sound and lights. I just did it all. It was a fun thing to come up in the early 90s out here in LA and be part of that whole thing that was happening. I'm slowing down here because there's a flood of memories coming in. I was still in this apartment back then. It's pretty crazy, man. At any rate, you guys get the gist of it. I don't have to keep going. I saw the trailers for these movies and I was like, oh man, it's really interesting. Like, I see what he's going for. And the thing is I know what it takes. I wanted to talk about a couple other things because they're in my head. Maybe I will. But what it takes to put a film together get the financing to make it happen, get everything together. I mean, all the equipment it takes, the cameras and everything, the people to operate them that know what they're doing to operate the cameras, to get actors to do their thing. I know what I was going to bring up. And um, it's it's a lot. It's a lot. So if you can actually complete a film project, get it in the can and get it seen, that's a big deal. My first thought, and it's kind of a joke, but my first thought when I watched the trailer was like, how do you, are you making money with this? Like, who sees this? Do you sell this somewhere? Is it a way, are you making movies and these people are supporting you? These are all questions I guess I got to ask him so that it will get you to another level, like a next level that you want to do. Uh, it's interesting. I guess we're going to have to talk about it because I want to know where he's coming from with it. But one of the things I know, or at least I feel like I know, I could be wrong. I was doing a play. There was a theater. That's when I met Norm Macdonald. There's a theater on La Cienega between Santa Monica and Beverly on the east side of the street there. It's kind of tucked in. I can't remember the name of the theater. It was there for quite some time. Might not be there anymore. I did a few shows there. Anyhow, it was a show. Kenneth Branagh was producing it, and it was a film that Cagney had done, Public Enemy. And so anyhow, I designed the sets. I remember there was a painter I knew, and I needed help on it, so I gave him a co-designer heading if he would help me get this job done. But I did all the work. He just got his name on a thing. Anyhow, at the time, I had just seen, I guess he did the Frankenstein movie, and I hated it. I just hated it. I hated what he did with it. I thought De Niro as the monster was terrible. I didn't like anything about that movie. But I remember thinking, the one part that was good was Kenneth Branagh's part where he plays Dr. Frankenstein. He's playing it as a crazy man, which you would have to be. Think about that story. Think about that. You're digging up freshly killed bodies and sewing body parts together and putting a head on a body and everything else to fill it with electricity to bring it back to life. You got to be a friggin' psycho to even think of that, right? That's a friggin' psycho story. And everybody calls it Frankenstein. The monster's name, he doesn't have a name. It's Frankenstein's monster. Frankenstein is the name of the crazy bastard that came up with the whole friggin' idea. Nobody gets that right. I got the Frankenstein boots, though. Anyhow, they're less Frankenstein-y now. They had them redone. I was so pissed off at that movie that on opening night, when I had the chance to meet Kenneth Branagh and have him pat me on the back for doing such a good job on the sets, which was pretty simple shit, actually, for that show, I didn't go because I knew I'm not equipped with a governor. I'm going to say what I think, and I didn't want to just insult the guy. You know what I mean? Being a really nobody. So I didn't go. I have probably countless stories like that of opportunities I could have taken advantage of, but I was refereeing myself in a way because I already had enough issues where me just walking around being myself was pissing people off. I have this tendency to piss people off. You see it sometimes in the comments. There happens to be a 180-pound lesbian who's really friggin' pissed off, apparently. Screw her. Anyhow, what I knew at the time was, or what I put together in my mind, and it's just my own thought, and I could be wrong here. I think it's got to be hard if you're wearing too many hats in a film. Like if you're helping to produce a film and you're directing it and you're acting in it. I think that's going to take, because I think the director is I don't think, I know. Director is one of the most important things that there is. Because it's the director's job to get what he needs to get to sell the premise. And I'm not talking about just the premise for the whole story, but every freaking scene that's being shot. So your actors need the proper motivation. They need to know where this is coming from. You can't just have nothing behind the eyes when you're doing your thing, man. So My thought on the Kenneth Branagh thing was he's playing a crazy person and he's directing the movie at the same time. And my take on it is it must have been hard for him to separate being crazy, because you really got to be. Coils of Death. Let's go back to that. We had this guy who's an old guy actor, and I can't think of his name right. He's such a nice guy. Oh, he was such a sweet dude. And my hair was long. He said, man, back in the 50s, all our hair is that long, but you couldn't tell. We needed it to be that long to do the high pompadour and everything. So he was a drunk. He was the town drunkard. The problem was when he was performing, it really seemed like he was drunk. And he was slurring too much, so he couldn't articulate, walking around drunk and everything else. But he was sober. He wasn't actually drinking. At least I don't think he was. I remember getting into him about it. I was the assistant director. It was my job, you know. I'm like, dude, it's hurting the performance. It's hurting all the other actors around you. You're making them work too hard. Like, dial it back. He's like, I'm sorry, I know. He's like, I'm in it. Like when I'm telling myself I'm drunk, I'm really drunk. It's like, okay, be a little less drunk. What do you get drunk on? Vodka? Okay. How about you're drunk on 6 beers instead of the bottle of vodka? Now you're just drinking 6 beers. Can you be that kind of drunk? I mean, it was a friggin' crazy conversation because it's all imaginary and fake. But when you're doing it, the crazy thing about that world, this is good for some of you because you have no idea. The crazy thing about that world is everybody accepts everybody else's process for the most part, unless you're total jerk off. But you can be a total jerk off if you're super big. Big time star, bunch of money, everything else. You could be Alec Baldwin and fucking shoot somebody in the chest. Get away with it. Let's leave that alone. Let's put that to the side. Fucking jackass. Anyhow, as I was saying, you are allowed, especially in rehearsal, to go through this process. And it's nice because it's fun. And you never have to grow up, man. They're your kids. You're pretending for a living. It's a pretty cool gig if you can make a living at it. And I'll say something else about this. At this time, my dad had a heart attack. It's a good story about my dad. Let's weave this in here. I get this call. I don't recognize the voice. Sounds like an old lady talking to me, but it's my father. He's extremely weak. He was in the basement of a hospital. Excuse me. I don't want to get emotional here, but it's going to happen. He was in the basement of a hospital. They were literally just drugging him so he would die. He had a heart attack. I've told this before here, I'm sure. And they told him that his heart wasn't strong enough to survive the operation. But he had the presence of mind to not swallow the pills, and he was spitting them out when they walked away. I don't know how long he did that for, but he did it long enough he became lucid enough to call me. And so he tells me all that. I'm like, okay, let me see what I could do. And I can't even believe all this happened. It's an amazing story, actually. I had a girlfriend at the time. Well, she was a girlfriend I had. We were still friends. Who lived in Jersey, and I instantly remembered that her grandfather had some kind of massive heart surgery at a place in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. There was a heart place there, supposedly world renowned, where they are on the cutting edge of human heart technology and surgeries and everything else. I called her up. She gave me the name of the place. I got the number. I called. I started talking on the phone to some woman. She put me on hold. A doctor got on the phone with me. I told him the story. He says, "Where's your father?" I told him. He says, "Okay, I'll call you back." Calls me back. He says, "We're sending a helicopter to pick your father up. This will be no cost to you." We're not optimistic. I'll let you know how it goes. I don't know how long it was, hours. I get a call. "Your dad just arrived on the helicopter. I'll call you when the surgery's over." And it was like 8 hours or more. Excuse me. But he called me back and he says, "Your dad's the toughest son of a bitch we've ever had in here." He says, "We literally had to take his heart completely out of his chest. 70% of your father's heart is dead meat. The 30% that could still work was on the back side of his heart, and we did, I think he said 4 or 5 bypasses. We put his heart back in his chest, and he goes, and he's still alive. Like, he was shocked. And my dad had got 5 more years out of that. And with his last 5 years, he went back and lived in the house he was born in Greece. And a house that was built in 1913 on a mountain where his grandfather, I've told you guys a story, he created the village of Anthusa. And then I was able to go back a couple times to spend time with my dad in the house he was born in, and go to all these places that they told me all these stories with the Nazis and everything else, the Germans coming through and all the stuff he lived through. So when that happened, I was doing that Coils of Death movie, and I had no money, and I wanted to go home and see my dad. And these people, like, I called a friend. You guys might remember I did that video. This video will end a lifelong relationship. That was him. It was my buddy Dennis. And back then he kind of screwed me over in a way because he was a good guy, but whatever. I called him up because he went to school to be a chiropractor. His older brother was already a working doctor making money. He was beginning to make money. I figured he's the only guy I could think of off the top. Now, since then, other friends of mine have said, why didn't you call me? I didn't think of you. That's the guy I thought of. Excuse me. Apologize. But I called him up. I was like, dude, just $400, man. I just need to fly home and see my dad and all that. Because you might not make it. And he's like, I don't have it. He made all these excuses. It was a real bummer. And these people that I was working with on this show, the Coils of Death, who I just met, took up a collection. I think it was $800. Perfect strangers, really. I had ingratiated myself to them because we were working together on this show, and I was really helping to make this show happen. But I'll never forget that. I mean, these are the weirdo people, man. These are the theater people. Everything's okay. You could do this, you could do that, you could say this, you could say that. All the things that we, a lot of us are on the same page here, we kind of goof on. They're very kind-hearted, loving human beings. And that was one of the things in my life that turned a gear that made me a better human being, because for a long time I wasn't, So now you got that story. But that was nice. And I missed that. And when I eventually crossed over into film work, I found that, and I liked working on these films. And I was always that can-do guy. I was the guy that would do so many things. I guess we're gonna this is where the friggin' video's going today. The Sunday night chat. Ripple. I think the name of the movie is Ripple. Jonathan Siegel. His father wrote Love Story, the Ryan O'Neal film. I think it won Academy Awards. So Jonathan, this was like a student film for him or something. He's a pretty nice kid. Jeff was a producer on it. My buddy Thad worked on it. A lot of us who did theater stuff and all worked together, we all worked on this movie, and it was in Long Beach. We shot it in a house in Long Beach. And I remember I went in there, it was a Craftsman home, and they're like, we're dependent on you, Mike. I did everything for this friggin' film. We also shot it in downtown LA. And like I put gator board up on the walls so I could paint the walls a different color. I was driving a truck. I did everything that they asked me to do, and they paid me because I always get paid. And man, we shot in the Queen of Angels Hospital. I'm just having all these memories. We had a lot of good actors in that film. And the funny thing was there was a part I could have done. And they told me, we got a part. It's yours, but we do have some, known actors who are possibles. And I got all excited. I was like, this will be good for me. And you remember the movie Reservoir Dogs? You guys might have heard of that little film. You might have heard of it. Quentin Tarantino, first movie he really directed and all that, because he did do Another one that's one of my favorite movies. I don't want to go off on another tangent. Anyhow, the guy who gets his ear cut off, the cop, Kirk Baltz, he ended up coming in and getting the part that I was going to get. And nobody likes that guy in Hollywood. I don't think. I don't know. Maybe he's still working. I don't know. But I used to see him at the 101 Cafe up there in the little restaurant underneath the hotel on Highland, just before you get on the 101. And I'd see him, and I remember we would laugh about that because I'd be like, "You stole my part, motherfucker!" Like, weren't you getting enough work at the time? Huh? Huh? Like, it's bad when I do that because it scares people. At any rate, I guess I'm bringing all this up because I talked to this guy and he brought this up and he sent me these trailers, and I saw him and I'm like, oh man, I wish I was part of it. I wish I was part of it from although I don't know him that well, and I don't know. This might be the end of the possibility of doing this job if he watches this. He said, we've been binge watching your videos. Thank you, man. Don't take any of this the wrong way. I really like it. I'd love to work with you. But the constructive criticism thing, stuff like that, not everybody can handle it. You know, sometimes people just have this thing. He seems pretty cool though, so I hope I didn't say anything that would ruin it, because I would like to help him. But the problem with me is that I can't help myself. I am a force. You know, if you include me in on a project and we're all supposedly working together to produce the best thing possible, I don't care if it's building a house, doing a kitchen, doing a piece of furniture. You know, I don't care what it is. If I'm part of it, I'm going to interject ideas from time to time that I think would make something better. And I might ask a lot of questions so I can understand where you're coming from, because only if I'm seeing something that's not driving in my mind is real, you know? So that's all. Just the way it was shot, at least the shots in the trailers, because it's flat, you know, it's the camera's here. And I always think about shots. I don't know why. I've never directed anything in my life, but I was a photographer, which brings up what's behind me. People have been asking. This is a photo I shot back in the 90s here. This woman used to come over here all the time, and I used to shoot her. All nudes, of course. I used to have a rule. If you're a female and you came in my apartment, you basically had to you had to be naked within the first 5 minutes, or we can't be friends. So anyhow, this photo, what I love about that photo is it's kind of like, oh, you like looking at voluptuous naked women? That's boom. I friggin' love it. I got a bunch of great shots of her from that day. Now this picture here is in front of the house where I have my workshop in the garage, and that hot rod was actually built in that garage in the 1940s, maybe the 1950s. I'm not sure. Pretty cool. And then this here is Jean Harlow, and that's one of my nieces right there, her graduation picture. She's now, well, she was a police officer in Prescott. She's super cool. And that's just pinup art. That's nobody, I don't think. I don't think that's anybody in particular. That was a gift from a friend of mine, my friend Penny. She's the gal that day, I mentioned this not long ago, we're going to dinner, me, her, and her two gay friends that I was friends with, two nice guys. And I was chewing the gum. She's like, why are you always chewing gum? I was like, well, it makes the muscles in your head stronger so you can take a punch. She goes, oh yeah, well, bam, punches me right in the kisser. That was from her. Thanks, Penny. Oh, Penny was fun. I should go see her someday. I haven't talked to her in a while. Anyhow, somebody asked about that. I rearranged the art, and when I did it, I didn't know what I was doing. Like, I wasn't paying attention about what was in the frames there. I just moved the frames around, and it just so happened to end up being the women. So that's that. But yes, I was a photographer for years. Did a lot of headshots. I shot a lot of kind of smutty type stuff. Back then at that time, a lot of women wanted to have kind of like a little portfolio of photos. So they had their headshots and they got their 3/4 shots and whatnot, but then they always wanted some risque shots. Okay. And it was funny living that life here at that time in the 90s, because you're living as an artist, right? With all these people who all want to break into this world. And so everything's okay. Oh, you want to take pictures of me? No problem. You guys might have heard this woman before. She's kind of a big thing. She's got one name thing. Oh yeah, Madonna. You might have heard of her. You ever see those pictures of her? The early pictures, all the nudes. She's got the hairy armpits and everything. I wonder if Sarah got the idea from that. Well, that's what she was doing. That's all she was doing. She was doing her thing, hanging out around like-minded, creative types, artist type people. And if somebody's like, I want to shoot something, there's 30 women around like, okay, I want my picture taken. Because they know that they're going to get copies of the prints, can help them later. But the big thing really is that experience. That's a real experience. Whether you're behind the camera and creating the art, or you're in front of the camera as the object, that's an experience. It doesn't have to lead to anything. It's that experience builds upon, boom, the next experience builds upon, boom, the next. Before you know it, you can walk around with confidence saying, I'm an artist, I'm a model, I'm an actor, you know, that sort of thing. You got to kind of progress through that. Most people do, to be able to be confident enough then to go do the thing. Anyhow, as I said, I walked away from that life, and then I remember, I don't know how long ago it was. It was in the 2000s at some point. I had a friend, Ed. We worked together. Oh my God. Holy crap. We worked on a mansion up in the Hollywood Hills here. It's another good story. This guy I knew called me up. He's kind of an idiot. I had worked with him on some films, but we also did like normal housework. He said, Mike, I need help. I got this crew here. We had done a house in Malibu before that I walked off of because the company I was working for wouldn't pay me any more money. And because I always get paid, and usually more than everybody else. I did this. It was down the street from a Steve McQueen house, I think. And we built this house. They bring me in to do the finished stuff. And I did some elaborate crap in there, man. Off the hook. And I knew I did such a good job. The house got put in magazines and everything. And I got to the point where I was, you know, done with the really hard stuff. And I was talking to them about money. And they were like, we love you. We want to keep you here through the finish of this. Because I only signed on for a short stint to come on and solve a problem for them. But they wanted to keep me there. I said, well, you got to, you know, pay me twice as much as what you're paying me. I could make way more than this doing my own thing. I don't need you. And they wouldn't do it. So I said, okay, I don't need you. And I left. And then here it was, years went by, and this guy, Chris, was working on his house. He was the foreman on the show, on the job. And you like that? And it's like a cartoon. He says, man, I can't get this project done. I don't know what's going on. I said, okay, I'll show up. So I show up at like 10 o'clock in the morning on my motorcycle. I walk through your house. I see a couple of guys working. I go up on the roof, a couple of guys working. Say hi to a couple of them. Don't engage too much. Chris has got his office set up in the garage. I said, okay, you got to. There's 3 guys here you can keep. You got to fire the other 6 guys. He's like, what? I said, they suck. They're not. They're shitty. They're not communicating. It's garbage work. I could tell by the way they're dressed and the tools they got. They don't know what the fuck they're doing anyhow. I don't know why you hired these guys. He's like, well, would you stay on with these other guys you think you could work with? The answer was yes, and we did this awesome job. I'm not going to get into that. That's a whole other story, but I made the outside of this house look like art. Fucking mansion built in the hills. Crazy. Herman Construction was the company they wouldn't pay more than $25 an hour. And I'm like, what? It's sorry, I ain't cutting it for me, man. At any rate, this guy I met, Ed, good looking guy, Lebanese guy, white guy, really, you know, American. I'm just saying that's his heritage. And he got into acting and got work, and he was really working. He was super cool. We became really good friends. He moved back home. He's got a family now. Why did I bring him up? I did kind of lose my train of thought there. Excuse me. It doesn't matter. Let's get off of this. I think I've been talking for almost an hour already. I didn't even want to talk about what I wanted to talk about, how social media kind of saved my life. I guess we're going to have to just do that on another day. Sorry. I hope this has been okay for you, though. I'll just say this. I went through all this crazy. I can't get into it now. It's too long of a story. That friggin' story could take 2 friggin' hours. How the hell am I going to do that? Let's just leave it at this. All right. I hope I'm not letting you down on this one. This whole I shouldn't look at the text. It's like before you go to bed, do not check your emails, man. Whatever you do, don't look at your emails. Don't look at any texts or nothing. You're tired. You're tired. Just get up, go to bed, because you open that phone and it could just be something that's going to piss you off, or somebody giving you shit, or some kind of stress or something else, and now you can't sleep. And that's what happened to me before I sat down to do this video. I looked at that stupid video of her. My door is off the track. Like, I literally have to go down there to size the thing up to determine whether I can even do it. It's not going to be worth it to them to hire me to go down there. And that's what's going on in my brain as I sit down and I push the button to go. And what did I end up talking about? I ended up talking about crap I did in LA, doing that stuff that most of you people hate those people. You know what? If anything else, those of you who are cool here and you like me and all that, now you know I was in that world. And I'm not one of those people. You should hold out hope for that. Not everybody in that business is the annoying, trying to tell you how to live and everything. The hypocrites, the people that are, the De Niros of the world. You know what I'm saying? Or the people that are, telling you got to do you have to live this kind of way, while meanwhile they can support socialism, and all that, because they've got so much money. They're not affected by their decisions, like what they support. I remember Sean Penn was on Charlie Rose, and at the end of the thing, he actually says socialism or communism or something like that. That's what he's supporting. That's what he was after. Look up the Charlie Rose interview with Sean Penn. And I remember looking at that going, you're a fucking asshole. You can say that because you have millions of dollars and you're famous. And the irony of being famous is everywhere you go, people just want to give you shit for free. Like, you got the money to buy it, but you get it for nothing. It's crazy. It's totally insane. It's a weird thing with me with that business, because on one hand, yeah, absolutely, I would love to participate in that still, again, because it is a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun working on in film. On the other hand, a lot of the people in it are just morons that believe a bunch of bullshit. But the thing is, I'm not even sure if they actually believe anything that they're saying. They're just repeating the shit that they know everybody else already agrees with so they can get the next job. That's all that is. I don't want to get too into it. Watch the link. I'll put it underneath there as far as why I left the movie business. But because these people are out of their friggin' minds. But there's a lot of normal people in there too, just doing what I'm unable to do, keeping their mouth shut, going along to get along to collect the paycheck, because the paycheck is okay. The problem with that is the hours. That's the problem with it. The amount of time you put in to get a show done, get a movie done, and I'm talking daily. You're getting up early and you're going to bed late. And if you're just acting, by the way, it's a lot of sitting around and waiting for you to do your thing. And then getting to the directing part of it, the director needs to be focused just on directing, because your actors are sitting around all day, waiting for their time. They might be that's why they do so many takes. You got to get warmed up a lot of the time, to get your best take. So that's why I think it's a little tough for guys that are directing, but they're also producing, and maybe they're acting as well and all that. It's got to be hard on them. And if you're not established, the people you work with, you might have a core group of guys who've helped you work on a few films, which is good, but because you don't have to talk as much, you kind of know. But you're not doing it regular enough, for a lot of those other people to pick up that slack that they should see that they need to do, so you could focus on the thing, so that everything is better. Anyhow, I saw all that in looking at the trailer, so it's really interesting to me. But I'm happy for this dude because he's doing his thing. And we'll see. We'll see if things work out and I do any of these things for him. It might not, maybe none of it will happen. He's talking about it not happening until the springtime. It's kind of hard for me to say, yeah, in the spring I'll be fine, because I don't know what's going to happen between now and then with me. I stuck my finger in a machine the other day. I might get my head cut off with something between now and then. You never know what the hell's going to happen to me. But it does bring up another thing. I was talking to somebody about this the other day too. My thing about hanging out, still being here in LA, because a lot of you are like, get out of LA. I understand, man. I understand. I got the house. I should just move there. It would be a lot easier to live there. And this has not been my mindset lately, but for a good portion of time, of course, I was unhappy for a long time. I was pretty depressed and even suicidal at different times in my life. And I'll have to do a video on it. That's what this video is supposed to be about today. But when social media came along, I reconnected with people. Well, fuck it. Let's just get into it. We'll see if we can get this in. Brief. We'll make this one brief. When social media came, I was in a dark place. You wouldn't know it to see me out. I'm an affable fella. You know, I'm fun. I love making people feel good, making them laugh, feel good about themselves. I love that. You ingratiate yourself to people that way. I don't do it for that reason. I do it because that's naturally who I am. My dad was like that. The benefit of it is that you do ingratiate yourself to people, and then they want to be around you. The negative to that is I'm kind of a loner, and I don't want too many people around. So it's like this constant thing I'm dealing with, and I didn't want too many people around. I like being alone because I was not happy with where I was at life, but I was sticking around here, which is what I wanted to get to, because in this town, something could change like that. And there was something else I wanted to talk about, which was commercials. Uh, oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Let me just interject this really quick because it was an important point I was trying to make. Oh, it was the Ed thing. Now I remember why I brought up Ed. Ed had an agent. That guy had I can't remember the name of the company, but it was over here on Sunset Talent Agency, and he signed me up. And so he started sending me out on commercial auditions. And commercial auditions, they're the worst because the crazy shit you got to do is so insane. And he always told me, he's like, we could get you work all the time, but you should come in and hang out in the office. Because that's how it works. You go, squeaky wheel gets the oil. If you hang out in the office, you say hi, you bring by a coffee, say hi to the girls, then they're always thinking of you. But I was too busy working. I got a real job. I got to make money every day. So I wasn't doing that. But what I wanted to say about it was about your building your confidence, doing this, and that. You build your confidence. I never had that problem. I was always a confident guy, not a conceited guy, but I'm confident with who I am. And I don't give a shit, which is a very important thing. It's the most important thing. That's how I got my first commercial, actually, was not giving a shit. And they picked me. And I kind of knew that was going to happen. And I remember going to these commercial auditions. I remember specifically one day with this director. I had to do this thing. And I'm doing the thing, and the guy looks at me, stops, he goes, you know what your issue is? He goes, what did he say? He basically said something along the lines of you're just, it was a compliment. He's like, you're too confident, is what he said. That was it. He's like, your issue is you're just too confident. Like I need you to do this. I'm like, oh, okay, well I could do that now. But it was just a really funny thing because I can come into a situation and just do it, and just do it. Like it's real every time. I can do the same thing 100 times. It'll seem like the first time every time for 100 times. And you could take direction and all that. But my thing when I went to those commercial auditions was it was always a weird vibe. I mean, they'd have you talk. I had to talk to a pair of pants that was speaking to me in Spanish once, hanging on a clothesline. I mean, it was friggin' crazy. So that's not the kind of thing I ever really wanted to do. But I did it because they sent me, and I went on every one they sent me on. I didn't get any of them. That's why I brought up Ed. But back to what I was kind of saying there. The reason why I stuck around when times were dark was because I kind of felt like, being out here, you just never know who you can meet. I met Quentin Tarantino one day, at Barney's Beanery eating lunch, and I could have made that conversation go on longer, and who knows. So you just never know. You can meet somebody and your whole life could be different within a couple days. Then I kind of just stopped thinking that way and just gave up on that and just focused on what I do, which is the furniture thing and all that. And that's been really good for me. Um, but I still wasn't happy. Like I was stressing out when I was teaching myself how to do the furniture. And that was coming into like the late 90s, around 2000, 2001, 2002 was when I really hit it because I got out of the movie business and I just focused on doing the carpentry thing hard. And it was stressful because I care about what I do. I would have a hard time sleeping the night before. I just had to do a thing that I never did before. Then I got to the point where I've been doing it so long, I don't think about it at all. I just start working. So now if I make like a little mistake or something, it's no big deal. I'm like, oh, I had to fix that. Boom, boom, boom. I don't stress at all now. But MySpace came along and I reconnected with people that I knew in high school. And, that thing with the Marines, the way things went down there, something happened to my brain. Looking back on it, I know this. I couldn't articulate it at the time. And for years, I was very unhappy. Again, got suicidal and everything because I didn't understand. And what it really was wasn't so much being upset with the Marine Corps about the way I was personally treated on that one particular base. It was I was more upset with the fact that I took the easy way out. And I'm a finisher. I'm a completer. That's what I do. So I didn't get to do my time. And that's what was really wearing on me. And then I realized later that that happened. I allowed myself to do that because I was a stupid kid. I didn't know anything. I went in there at 18 years old, which then made me more mad at the Marine Corps again for the way that they treat you. You know what I mean? So, and I hadn't even had that epiphany yet. And I was doing the MySpace thing and reconnecting with people, but I was always trying to stay fit and all that. And reconnecting with these people from my past who love me. That's the thing. When you're alone, you don't know who loves you. And we all need love in our lives. You need it. You need it. And I wasn't, the theater thing with the actors, that was fun because people care and they expose their emotion to you. And at least you know where you stand. And then I got away from that. So then I was just business, work, with nothing. And as far as women went, there was tons of women, but it was over the top. It was just sport fucking for decades. So I never learned how to pursue a woman equality because it was every time I was just turn around and I used to be handsome when I was young. So there was always some girl that was like, oh, hi, and I'm like, oh, okay, hi, the old joke, who am I to deny anybody, So that's all that was. And I remember having the epiphany. It's like, gee whiz, I don't have a problem being lonely. But the thought was, I'm lonelier in a way with 5 chicks that I'm dating that are all hot that just come over and cook me dinner and we have great sex and we watch a movie or something and they're gone and I don't see them for a week. But the next night, the other girls, it was a crazy time, man. It was a crazy time. Crazy. And I lived like that for years, but I was unhappy. Again, with the social media thing, with the MySpace thing, reconnecting with people, I started having a positive effect on my old friends. A lot of girls got fat and everything, and next thing you know, they were losing weight. And I was blogging then on MySpace, and I was writing a lot about what I was thinking about in life and history and politics. And I had several thousand people follow me just reading what I was writing. And then, of course, around 2010, the jump went over to Facebook. I remember my friend Eric got me onto that. He's like, you should do it, man. He was the president of the Cretans, which was the motorcycle club I was riding with at the time. So no more MySpace, so no more blogging. But what was interesting about that was the clubhouse, like partying at the clubhouse with the biker guys and the rockabilly crowd and the hot rod people and the rockabilly girls and the punk rock bands and all that. They knew me and I was partying with them and we always had a good time. But when I got on MySpace, eventually I created the Facebook. I eventually created the Mike Z Design Facebook page. But before that, when I first got on it, I started sharing some pictures of the work I had done up until that point with the furniture. I'll never forget it. I was like, I should post up these pictures. So I posted pictures. Like a week later is the next party, since I did post any pictures. And everybody treated me different because I'd made friends with them on Facebook. And it was respect. And I'd never thought about it before because I never did anything trying to do something to impress anybody else other than myself because I'm hard. Yeah, well, not hard right now. If I was, you'd see it. Yeah. But I'm hard to please. And I take what I'm doing seriously, and I have to like it. And a lot of my clients will say all the time, "You shouldn't point that out to me," because I'm like, "It's great, it's great. You know, there's just one thing here. Don't tell me that. They would never notice." But I can't help myself. I got a problem. So to get that respect from those people that I liked and they cared about me, that was a big deal. And then just to keep this short, it's been almost eight. It'll be 8 years next month because it was on my birthday, my 50th birthday. I had a death experience. I died right here on the floor of my living room, man. I left my body. It was pretty fucked up, but it was the best thing that ever happened. I had this whole conversation. I've told the story before. And I was given the opportunity to go home. I said, "You can go home now." And I said, "Well, life has been kind of interesting lately. Maybe I should stick around a little while longer." And what was going on in my mind when I said that was the social media. It wasn't about Facebook, but it was the impact, the positive impact I was having on other people. I didn't know that I could touch other people's lives that way because I'm alone. I'm alone all the time. I'm alone every day. Every night I'm alone. But because of social media, I had an outlet for my spirit to touch other people and make them feel good and motivate them to make changes in their life that were positive. Like Tony Robbins or something. I've gotten that from people before. And many times since then, I've had a lot of people come to me, and sometimes you'll see it. You'll see it in the comments here sometimes. But I get phone calls and messages from people, and I don't even remember. I've had comments on Facebook. You said this to me, and I'm living this life now because of something you said to me. I get that a lot, and that's what makes me feel good. And then I'm gonna get emotional about it, but when I started doing the YouTube, it wasn't this. It wasn't me sitting here talking on my phone like a crazy person. In the old days, if people were walking around talking to themselves, they'd throw a friggin' net over you and throw you in a padded room. Now everybody's walking around talking to themselves. So when I got on here, I thought I had to show something. I had to do something. I had to, like, here's what I'm doing. Here's how you could do this. Like, I was doing survival shirts I was making and all that. Then I started doing the van stuff, and I wanted to help people with the Astro vans because there wasn't enough help when I was trying to do it for myself. So I thought maybe I could help other people with that. Everything I do here is trying to help out other people. And then you people started letting me know that you liked when I'm telling a story. You wanted more stories. You wanted this. You asked for this. Most of you. There's some of you that still don't get it. This thing I'm doing now, where the flashlights or whatever, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not supposed to know what I'm talking about. I don't have to know everything. You know what I know? Yeah, I got a box in the mail. I pull this thing out. This is pretty cool. Let me show it to you. Here's how it works. Let me see how this thing works. I'll check that out. That's neat. This looks cool. I like it. And if my enthusiasm inspires you enough, the link is in the description. You get to click the Amazon link or whatever. Now you get to do your research, as I'm always telling you to do with everything, including politics. Do your own research. Stop repeating shit you hear that makes you feel good, because it might not be accurate. Do your own friggin' research. Same thing with that. Because some guy criticized the Wu-Ban X2 Pro video. He's like, you don't know if it's waterproof. I looked it up. It says it right there. Well, good. But he's like, this is the first time I watched one of your videos. It's the last time. That motherfucker is wound too tight, man. I tell you right now, that guy pisses off everybody in his life. Which is why I kind of like, in a way, when somebody gives me shit in the comments, because I say this all the time lately, if you look at the comments in the comment section, it's way positive. Every once in a while there's some jerk, and it's just funny to me. It's like, something here is not like the others. There's that one guy. But the thing is what they don't realize is that they are revealing themselves, then their personality, as not likable, which is fine. You don't have to be. That doesn't necessarily have to be your goal in life, to be the most liked human being. I certainly don't feel like I need to do that. I'm just being myself. Fortunately, who I am, enough people happen to like it. Whatever. I don't care. but it's nice that that's the way it's working out. But I always have said, because I've learned, never underestimate the power of likability. The whole film industry, the people that make the movies, they have that job because they're likable, not necessarily because they're the best at that job. That's what I learned working in the film industry. And that's what pissed me off. Because there's plenty of nice people in there, but I'm a professional. I'm a professional at doing shit. You want to get something done? You want to get it done in the right way and get it done right to the best of my ability if I'm involved in it? I don't care if you're likable. For me, it's about job performance. That's why the Trump thing is a thing for me. People didn't like him. I don't give a fuck if you don't like him. It's about job performance. He's not even president yet, and he's already having a positive effect on the whole friggin' planet, man. So, I'll leave that there. You know what? With that, let's get the hell out of here. What do you think of this crazy watch? I got this thing over a year ago. It's cheap. It's a good, well-built watch. It's an Android, which is now Aragon, known for making pretty massive watches, but heavy. This is a 500-meter diver. It didn't have a band on it. I was at the swap meet this morning. I picked up this dive band for it, 24-millimeter band, not knowing it would fit this watch, and it did. And I was like, that's a massive, ridiculous watch, but it's cool. All right, that's it. I hope you guys were entertained. I don't even know what the hell I spoke about, but I hope I didn't piss anybody off. And to you, dude, I'm not mentioning your name right now because you told me not to let anything out of the bag, but to that director guy, I hope I didn't say anything that offended you. Hope you're still interested in having me help you out because I'm open to the job. I want to do it. So you guys be kind to one another. Try to help somebody out. Remember, the main thing the most valuable thing you have is your time. And anytime you can donate your time to another person and just listen to them, you're giving yourself to that, and that's a good thing. And as human beings, that's what we need to be doing with one another. Let's make ourselves feel good, which doesn't mean you have to sugarcoat things. Be honest at the same time. Have a great day. I'll catch you on the next one.